It's Jake Jeremy, and you're watching the SE Scoops YouTube channel. On today's video, I'm going to be talking about the fact that possibly one of the greatest big men in the history of professional wrestling, in the history of WWE, is finally being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and so's Kane. I'm obviously joking. Obviously, the great Khali is not one of the greatest ever, but in terms of a meme, that man is a walking legend. Love the guy. Now, talking about Kane, Kane was told on the bump on Wednesday, he was told, look, you're going to be going into the Hall of Fame by none other than the Undertaker. Obviously, those two have had such a storied rivalry. Kane, of course, debuted in the WWE at 1997's Bad Blood pay-per-view following the Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. It's quite possibly the greatest introduction to a character ever in terms of professional wrestling. He came along at a time where the company was looking to move into a more realistic sort of approach to their storylines. They were coming out of the New Generation era. They were starting to move into the Attitude Era. And so the way they built Kane versus The Undertaker had overtones of the magical, the fantastique, but it's still regarded as one of the greatest storylines ever. Now, granted, the matches between the two aren't exactly stellar. I can't say I've ever seen an Undertaker versus Kane match that I've been blown away by, but in terms of characters, they are two of my personal favourites ever. You see the run that Kane went through. Now, he hasn't had to reinvent his character quite as much as The Undertaker, but we've seen, the original Kane, Slow Chemical, when he took the mask off, Corporate Kane, which is probably the less said about that, the better. Obviously, the last few years of his career were, a bit slower, but he was still a good hand. He was still there for the company, still did what they needed him to do. In terms of WWE legends, in terms of big men in the company, he is one of the greatest ever. In terms of matches that you should definitely go back and see, apologies, I can't remember the exact date of it, but Kane versus Test is definitely one to check out. Kane's matches against Chris Jericho have been brilliant. In terms of other matches I've really enjoyed Kane in, there was a Money in the Bank match I enjoyed seeing him. Sorry, I'm not great with dates. The really good Money in the Bank match, like I said, with Kane. I think that might have been WrestleMania 23. I'm not 100% sure. I think it was either WrestleMania 23, because Punk won 23 and then won it at 24, I think. That's worth checking out if you can find it. Of course, as well, Kane versus X-Pac, that was a really good little rivalry from the Attitude Era. Kane has had a lot of fantastic moments, a lot of really good, really well built up storylines, and he's had a lot of really bad storylines. He's had the infamous Katie Vick storyline, which spawned a book from WWE, which is just not ever worth reading. It's terrible. It's awful. Don't ever read it. Don't even pretend it doesn't exist. Let's do that. Let's pretend it doesn't exist. WWE are pretty good at pretending stuff doesn't exist. So yes, Kane has been entered, or is being entered, into the WWE Hall of Fame. And the question is it going to be The Undertaker inducting him? I don't see why it shouldn't be. If Paul Bearer was still alive, I'd say Paul Bearer could induct Kane. Brother Love could essentially induct Kane if he wants. It won't happen. I don't see it happening. I mean, Brother Love's more kind of intertwined with The Undertaker, but he's still part of that sort of weird, sort of fantastic, sort of magical feud that was going on. I think it's got to be The Undertaker. Mark Calloway has been a more prominent figure on all WWE programming recently. He's appeared left, right, and centre. He's talking. He's the idea of his character is now dead. We are now, sorry, pun intended, or not intended. His character's dead, and he's no longer a dead man. Let's go with that. So Undertaker he's just another guy at this point, and I have no issue with him inducting Kane into the Hall of Fame. I find it quite incredible that Kane is going in before the Undertaker. Undertaker's obviously a surefire Hall of Famer. How can he not be? And I do look forward to seeing Kane being entered into the Hall of Fame. Like I said, he's one of the greatest characters ever. He's one of the greatest inventions of the Attitude Era of the 90s. Arguably, he's one of the greatest characters that Vince McMahon has ever created. Possibly even second behind The Undertaker. He's that good of a character. He's the longevity. He's been wrestling physically. I think he's been wrestling more in the WWE than The Undertaker has. There's a long time that Kane was still going full time. He was still going at it. He's still, he's still pushing ahead. I mean, there were times when you thought maybe he shouldn't be wrestling full time, but he still was, and he's still an iconic character, an iconic figure. who's going to live on for an extremely long time in the WWE pantheon. So here's looking forward to his Hall of Fame induction. Thanks very much for watching here on YouTube. This is the SE Scoops YouTube channel, of course. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to do the thumbs up and the little notification bell so you know each and every time we release a brand new video right here on SE Scoops.